Joining me now from Politico is Jonathan Martin. He's the politics bureau chief, senior political columnist. Always good to get his take on everything happening at the national level. Jonathan, I don't know where you are, but I imagine you're in a swing state somewhere.
Hey, Roby, I'm bouncing around the Midwest this weekend, Wisconsin and Michigan. It's good to see you. It's good to be on. Thanks.
Let's talk about this presidential race. You're obviously in some swing state territory.
Yeah.
There's some swing states out on the East Coast. There's some out in the Southwest as
Yeah.
well. I predict a photo finish on this
Yes.
race. What's your prediction? And do
It
you have
seems that way to me too. Kamala Harris has made this race competitive in a way it wasn't going to be when Biden was the nominee over the summer. And the question is, does she have enough gas in the tank to get there? The irony, Roby, is that Democrats thought initially that she could put the Sun Belt into play: North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada. I tend to think we're coming back down to the same three states along the Great Lakes that have decided the presidential the last two times: Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. I think that's her path to 270. She holds those three and she gets that Omaha one electoral vote and she gets 270. So I think we're back down to the blue wall. It's the same path, I think, for her if she can get there.
Very interesting. Now, you were with former President Bill Clinton recently.
Yes. You've heard of him, Roby, haven't you?
Yeah, familiar with that guy. So tell me a little bit about what he had to say. What were his observations that you could?
Well, first of all, he was thrilled to get back on the campaign trail, Roby. As you know, in part because of COVID, in part because of politics in his own past, he's sort of been sidelined for the last few years. And I think being with him for a day and a half in North Carolina last weekend, he was just thrilled to be out there in rural communities. The crowds were, half black, half white. And in his element, he's talking about growing up in Arkansas and outhouses and snakes and how he just stopped at a Bojangles. And he said, I love that place. He was thrilled to be on the trail. He's still sharp. He's still got his fastball. It's lost a couple of miles per hour. He's 78 and looks it, but his talent is being able to explain stuff. As Obama said, he was the secretary of explaining stuff. He could put these concepts into really easy to understand terms. And what he was doing, and I've been trying to signal to the Democrats running up and down the ticket, is you got to focus on the bread and butter, quality of life issues, the economy and healthcare. And you can't get distracted by Trump's latest outburst. And so he was focused on, the price of insulin, prescription drugs, inflation, groceries. He was really hitting those things hard. And I think his urging is for Democrats to try to do the same, Roby. I talked to him for a little bit at one of the stops, and he's really eager to see Democrats focus on those issues, and also for Democrats to extend an open hand and to try to compromise and work together across the aisle and try to end this period of, our great national food fight in American politics. And so we'll see if his party follows the advice.
Our great American food fight. I like that description. I think that's pretty apropos there, very accurate. Let's flip our attention to the U.S. Senate and the U.S.
Yes.
I want to start with the Senate.
Yes.
Conventional wisdom is Republicans take back the Senate. You look at Montana and West
Yes.
Virginia, that already flips the map there, but there are some other competitive states. And I want you to address Texas in that
Sure.
context as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think if you were to go to the betting window in Hot Springs, and by the way, I'm not urging any of your viewers to bet, but if they did, House, Senate, and White House, I think the safest bet in Washington now is that the GOP is going to flip the Senate. It's just a math question. There's so much more territory in which they're competing in than Democrats are. And the question, I think, is more, do they get 51 or 53, 54 at this point, Roby? And I think that'll hinge on whether Trump is able to emerge in those three states I mentioned earlier, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, with a victory, and a victory of like a point and a half or 2 points. If he does, he may bring some of the folks running for Senate in those states along with him. Those are all three Democratic held Senate seats in those three states. So that'll be fascinating and could tell us if they can get a decent majority rather than a bare majority. Yeah, Democrats are pinning more hopes now on Texas because there are frankly not a lot of states they're playing in. The only two places where Democrats are playing offense, because the nature of this map, is Florida and Texas. And Roby, if you're a Democrat and your best places for pickups are Florida and Texas, well, it's a pretty tough cycle because those are obviously pretty red states. But look, Colin Allred's a good candidate. Ted Cruz has got some challenges, and I think that'll be a close race. And if the Dems get big turnout, that could be a photo finish there too.
What do you see happening in the U.S. House? Again, conventional
Yeah,
wisdom is that
yeah,
Democrats have a path to take over the House, even if it's by a slim margin. But
yes,
I mean, we're already in
yeah.
slim margin territory for a
Look,
Republican.
this comes back to what happened over the summer. I think if Biden had stayed in the race, it would have been a debacle up and down the ticket for Democrats. I think Harris gives them the opportunity to, drive turnout that they could compete to flip the House. And I think the House really tends to turn on the presidential and the mood and what happens in the final days. Does Trump emerge? Does Harris emerge? I think we'll know the results of the House depending upon that final movement in the presidential. And if neither does, and this is sort of a split country and split decision or photo finish, to use your analogy, I think it's going to be a long, long week or two counting the votes in the House. Keep in mind, the House could hinge on California. Those are mail ballots out there, and that's going to take a while to count. So we may not know the results of the House majority until the following week after the election.
Exciting stuff, always good stuff. I guess before I let you go, give me one thing to kind of keep our eye on between now and Election Day.
Well, I'm very curious to see in the final 2 weeks, Roby, if Harris makes any more aggressive overtures toward Republicans. She's been campaigning with Liz Cheney, very, very, transparent about wanting to get folks to cross the aisle and vote for her. Does she go a step further and promise to govern from the center and really try to rebut Trump's claims that I think she's been hurt over that she's going to be some radical liberal? She's nibbled around it, but does she go a little further? And does that get her just enough votes in those three states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, that she can pull this thing out?
Keep your eye on the blue wall up in the Midwest. That's Jonathan Martin's signal to you right there.
There
Jonathan,
you go.
thank you so much for being with us. I appreciate you. Be careful on the campaign trail.
Thanks, Roby. Go Hogs. See you, pal.